If you can pull yourself out of trying to be an expert and using expertise to create confidence, and if you can strengthen your internal identity as a leader, you will experience a much more rapid and sustainable growth in your confidence and in your ability to be a super powerful presence in those rooms. The most important thing is that you are leaning on the identity and not the expertise to give you the certainty that you will be able to be a strong, effective voice in that room or conversation. Welcome to The Art of Speaking Up, a podcast that helps professional women access the limitless potential that lies within them. I'm your host, Jessica Guzik, and my mission is to help you find that spark inside you that has the power to transform your career in ways you may not have thought possible. I'm so excited that you're here. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jess. I'm the host and creator of The Art of Speaking Up. I'm also a coach for women who work in the 9-to-5 and corporate space. And today's episode is all about helping you develop a powerful presence in meetings at work. If you want to be someone who is contributing thought leadership, who has a strong reputation as a leader and as someone who shows up and really moves the ball forward. And if you also want to feel better about the impact that you're having, and you want to really feel like you're giving it your all when you are in work conversations and work meetings, this is the episode for you, because we are talking all about how to cultivate the internal mindset that is going to help you externally have a very confident, very high impact voice at work when you are in meetings and conversations with your boss and leaders. Because ultimately, if you can be participating super powerfully in those situations, that is what's going to help you develop the reputation that will get you noticed and promoted. And those are all things that we want. So we're going to talk about how to make that happen. Now, when it comes to you having a more effective voice in the room, there are two ways that you can go about achieving that result. And what I will say is that one of those ways works really well, and one of those ways doesn't work as well. So what I want to do is I want to explain the two different ways, and then I want to hone in on the way that works really well and support you in doing that. Because a lot of the times I see people going off in the wrong direction and they're not making the progress that they want, and they think it's because something's wrong with them. But really, it's just because they're not using the right process or the right method to help build the confidence and develop the voice that they want to develop. I want to make sure that that is not the situation that you're in. So let's talk about the two different ways. The first way is what I call an expertise-based approach, and this is something that I see a lot of people get stuck in. How you know that this is you is that as you are going through your process of trying to build your confidence and trying to be a more powerful contributor in work conversations, the way that you are doing that is by deepening and collecting expertise. You are trying to become more of an expert so that you have expert perspectives to share in work conversations. So this could look like learning more, preparing more for the meeting, asking for more background materials, and really trying to gather and collect information in the hopes that if you gather enough information, you will become so practiced and fluent in the topic that's being discussed that it will feel easy and seamless for you to contribute. However, what I often find is that collecting this information and trying to become an expert doesn't typically yield the confidence and yield that smooth, effortless speaking up experience that people hope it will create. And we're going to talk more about why that happens as we get deeper into the episode. But that is the first approach. It is where you are trying to become an expert and use that expertise to give you the confidence to contribute. The second approach, this is the approach that I use when I am coaching my clients. This is the approach that underlies the philosophy behind my group program, the Art of Speaking Up Academy. And this is an approach that I have seen to be much more effective than the approach I just described. And I call this the identity approach. So with the identity approach, rather than you trying to collect expertise and use the confidence that you are hoping to get from that expertise to have a stronger voice in the room, instead of collecting expertise, you are trying to build a stronger identity as a leader. So the expertise method looks like you being like, okay, if I prepare and learn all the things, then I will feel confident in the room and I will be able to be a part of the conversation. Whereas the identity method looks like you saying, okay, if I feel like a leader deep in my bones and I feel like someone who always makes an impact in every room they're in, then that will help me become a stronger voice in the room. So in summary, expertise-based approach is let me learn all the things that will help me feel confident, doesn't work super well. Identity-based approach is where you say, let me adopt the identity of a leader, then I will feel confident. That does work super well. However, what I find is that most people automatically default to an expertise-based approach. The way that they try to bolster their confidence and develop a stronger, more impactful voice in meetings and in work conversations is through acquiring expertise, because this is a very familiar thing that we know to do. When we want to improve, when we want to get better at something, a really common pathway that we are aware of is to acquire knowledge. Now, knowledge can be great, but it has its limitations. And what I've noticed and observed over the years coaching my clients, and particularly running my group program, the Art of Speaking Up Academy, over and over with multiple cohorts of women, is that if you can pull yourself out of trying to be an expert and using expertise to create confidence, and if you can strengthen your internal identity as a leader, you will experience a much more rapid and sustainable growth in your confidence and in your ability to be a super powerful presence in those rooms. And that is why in today's episode, I want to deep dive into how to make that mindset shift and what that looks like, because it is one of the single most powerful tools that I use behind the scenes with my clients, and it will get you so much farther than collecting expertise and trying to be a subject matter expert ever could. And the way that I'm going to teach it to you is through an analogy, and this is a 3-part analogy. So I'm going to walk you through 3 different examples to help you understand how to gain confidence and strengthen your voice by bolstering your identity rather than by bolstering your expertise. Before I get into the analogy and dive deeper, I want to share a brief but very exciting announcement, which is that for the first time in several months, enrollment for my signature group program, the Art of Speaking Up Academy, is right around the corner. So if you have never heard about this program before, the Art of Speaking Up Academy is my signature program where you get to join a small cohort of ambitious, like-minded female professionals on a 6-month journey of deepening your self-confidence and developing a powerful voice at work. In this program, which is run by me, I guide you through my signature curriculum where you are going to learn the foundations of confidence building and effective verbal communication so you can get recognized as a leader and so you can feel amazing about the impact that you are having at work. Mark your calendar. Enrollment is going to open Monday, October 7th, and I strongly recommend adding yourself to the waitlist so that you don't miss the enrollment period. You can do that by clicking the link in the show notes or going to jessguzikcoaching.com/academy, where you can learn all about the program and add yourself to the waitlist. And now let's get back into talking about how to strengthen your identity and leverage that stronger identity to help you be a more confident, impactful voice in the room at work. So I'm going to share 3 examples with you, and each of these examples is going to help us learn this together. So the first example I'm going to share with you in this 3-part analogy is the example of a wedding planner. I want you to imagine that a wedding planner is planning a wedding, and there is a conflict between the caterer and the florist. And the couple whose wedding it is goes to the wedding planner and says, hey, there's a conflict between the caterer and the florist. And the wedding planner says, oh, sorry, I don't have expertise in flowers. I don't have expertise in catering. So I'm sorry, I don't know, what I can offer and what I can add here to help solve that. So we can all agree that would be weird, right? Like it would be weird if the wedding planner said that. What we expect the wedding planner to say is, okay, I'm on it. Let me figure out what's happening and let me resolve it. And then I'll circle back with you. That is the answer we expect from the wedding planner. Why is that? It's because we expect the wedding planner to take on a leadership role. We don't expect the wedding planner to know about flowers. We don't expect the wedding planner to know about catering, but we do expect the wedding planner to go and figure it out. So this is an example of a leadership identity versus an expert approach. The wedding planner isn't going to rely on expertise to solve problems. They're going to step into a leadership role and step up and solve the problem. This is what makes them good at what they do. And this is also why it would be weird if a wedding planner was like, sorry, I can't solve that. I don't know how to make flower arrangements, right? Like that would be strange. So that's example number one. Let's look at example number two. Example number two is a concierge or like a front desk person at a super luxe, super gorgeous, super fancy 5 bazillion star resort. Like I just want you to imagine the most decadent resort out there. And then you have someone who works at the concierge. So they're the person that picks up the phone if someone in one of the guest rooms has something that they need help with. The concierge answers the phone to help them out. So I want you to imagine that the concierge gets a call from one of the guest rooms and the guest says, I just arrived at this beautiful hotel to start my vacation and I realized that I left my prescription at home and I have no way of getting it and I need my prescription. Now, it would be weird if the concierge said, sorry, like I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to write prescriptions. I'm not sure how that works, and hangs up the phone, right? Like that would be weird. What we expect the concierge to say is, all right, let me figure out how we can solve that for you. I will give you a call back with a plan on how we can help you get a new prescription. And similarly to the wedding planner example, what makes the concierge good at their job is not the fact that they're an expert in everything, but the fact that they have that leader identity, that it is their job to provide this 5-star experience. And a 5-star experience doesn't mean they have to know everything, but it does mean they have to show up for whatever challenge gets put in front of them or whatever question gets asked of them. Now, I have one last example to hammer this home, and then we're going to talk about what all of this means for you. So the last example that I have is the example of a news anchor. So I want you to imagine someone who reports on the local news. And I want you to imagine, like, let's say there's a fire happening in the city and the news production crew goes to cover the fire and they start to roll the cameras and the anchor gets on camera with the fire in the background. And they say to the anchor, like, all right, we're rolling. We're live on television. Tell us what's happening. Give us the update. And I want you to imagine that the news anchor says, I don't know about fires. Like I have no knowledge about fires. This isn't something I'm familiar with. So I'm sorry, viewers and camera crew, but I can't give you any update. And they cut away from that anchor. Again, that would be weird because the anchor's job is not to be an expert. The anchor's job is to step into leadership and serve the people of that community by giving them the update that they need. And it would be weird if the anchor was like, I can't do my job because I don't know about fires. So these are all examples of jobs where expertise isn't the key to success. Like the wedding planner isn't going to be good at their job by knowing every little thing. The anchor isn't going to be excellent at reporting by knowing every little thing. What makes these professionals good at what they do is the identity that they have. It's how they think about themselves. And that identity fuels them to find a way to solve things and to find a way to contribute. Now, in all three of these examples, they all share something in common in that each of them has a role that involves a leadership identity, right? Like the wedding planner is in charge of leading everyone to a flawlessly executed wedding. The concierge is in charge of leading the guests to a solution. The news anchor is in charge of leading the audience to clarity and understanding of what is happening with this fire. But then they all have a slight variation in their identity beyond just being a leader. So for the wedding planner, they probably have an identity as a problem solver. They probably see themselves as someone who, when something pops up, they will tackle it immediately and they will find a solution. The concierge person at the fancy hotel probably has an identity of a luxury service provider. So they have this feeling that it is their job to provide this seamless, luxe, perfect experience for guests. And that identity helps them show up bigger and stronger and more effective if a challenge or hard question comes up. And lastly, the news anchor has the identity of serving the people, like being of service to the community. So when the wedding planner or the concierge or the anchor gets asked a question or asked something and they don't know about it, they don't know the answer, they don't have the expertise, they're not making their impact by finding the answer and knowing everything. They're making their impact by leaning on their identity as a leader, as a problem solver, as a luxury service provider, as a figurehead in the community. And that identity makes them feel something. It makes them feel a sense of urgency. It makes them feel a sense of their ability to solve this and move things forward. It makes them feel excited about bringing the problem to resolution. And that feeling that they get from that identity that they hold about themselves serves as fuel to help them get to the answer. But it's not their knowledge or expertise that gets them to be able to show up for the challenge and that gets them to be able to rise to the occasion. It's their identity. And what's so interesting is that this is a little bit of a chicken or an egg situation, and it truly fascinates me, especially when I see this pattern playing out with my clients. But a lot of times we think, if I gather enough knowledge and if I know everything, then I'm going to feel strong, right? Then I'm going to have the answer and I'm going to contribute and I'm going to figure it out. And time again, we spend all of this time gathering expertise and trying to have all the answers, and we don't feel that confidence. We're trying to use the expertise to create the feeling of confidence and leadership. And I just want to offer that if you reverse that and you go in the opposite order, you will see much more success. So instead of you saying, I need to gather expertise to feel confident and feel like a leader, instead, what I would want you to think is, if I feel confident and I see myself as a leader, it will be easier for me to access my own genius and my own problem solving. The quote unquote expertise will come to me because I believe so strongly in my capabilities. How did the news anchor figure out what to say without knowing that much about fires? They believed in who they are. They believed in how they could show up. And that helped them tap into their own genius, their own inner resources to find their leadership and find their voice in that moment. How did the concierge at the hotel figure out how to get a prescription for the guest? They saw themselves as a capable luxury service provider. And so then that propelled them to go out and find the answer, to go out and find a way to accomplish the goal. And what I want to offer is, for you, it's the same. When you are walking into a meeting, if you don't think of yourself as a leader, if you're not strengthening your identity as a leader and you're just trying to lean on expertise, the confidence most likely isn't going to come, or it isn't going to stick. Instead, you have to walk into that room with the identity already there. And you can pull inspiration from any of these examples. Maybe you have more of the wedding planner identity where you're like, I'm a problem solver. Whatever comes up, whatever gets thrown at me, even if I know nothing about it, I get in there and I find the solution. Or maybe you like the inspiration of the concierge and your identity is more something like, I am someone who delivers a seamless, exquisite experience. Everything I do is 5 stars. So you can bet that when you have me in the room, when you have me in the meeting, I am offering a 5-star experience, which means I'm putting all of my focus on helping us solve this problem and finding what my contribution can be. Or maybe you can take the approach and identity of the news anchor, where your thought process is, I am here to serve these people, to help these people. I'm on a mission. And so even if I don't know everything, I'm going to show up and I'm going to deliver whatever I can in the moment. So the identity that you choose can be whatever resonates with you and whatever helps you feel strong and capable. But the most important thing is that you are leaning on the identity and not the expertise to give you the certainty that you will be able to be a strong, effective voice in that room or conversation. Typically, when we lean on expertise, it's because we don't have confidence in our identity. What's happening is we don't believe we're leaders. We don't believe we can do it. We don't believe we can figure it out. So we're overcompensating. We're overcompensating by gathering all this knowledge. But when we stay in that cycle, basically what we're reinforcing with ourselves is like, yeah, I can't trust myself to be a leader. I can't trust myself to be a problem solver. I can't trust myself to figure it out in the moment. I can't trust myself to be strong and show up bold, even if I don't have all the information. So therefore, for any opportunity I have, that I'm compensating with knowledge gathering. And you can see how this can set a person up for failure. Because if you're gathering knowledge because you have a feeling that you're not good enough and you need to learn more and more to be good enough to contribute in the room, then your knowledge gathering is basically an expression of the thought, I'm not good enough. So as you're learning and gathering knowledge and gathering the expertise, what you're really thinking more deeply in the back of your mind is just, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. That's what's playing. And so if that's happening all along, you're going to walk into the meeting or the situation with those same thoughts, with that same identity, the identity of someone who's not good enough. Just because you gathered the knowledge, those thoughts and those beliefs aren't going to go away. And this is why so often people try to do a lot of knowledge gathering and they're putting in lots of effort and it can feel a little bit exhausting and it's also not yielding the confidence that they want. So instead of strengthening your knowledge, I want you to focus on strengthening your identity. And there are two pieces to this and they are both incredibly empowering. The first piece is the identity of who you want to be. What do you want your reputation to be? What do you want people to say about you? And to help you tap into this, we can start to imagine like, well, what do people say about the wedding planner or the concierge or the news anchor? They might say things like, oh my gosh, she can solve anything. She's so good at this. She's so determined. She always figures it out. I can't believe she found that out for us. I can't believe she did that. She serves our community. She's so tapped into our needs. I feel like I can really trust her, right? Like I want you to think about who you want to be, what you want people to be saying about you. And I want you to work on strengthening that. And this brings me to the second part, which I think is so powerful. And I think one of the most powerful things you can do is to ask yourself where you already have a super strong internal identity that you are neglecting. Because for most of my clients, it's not that they don't have any leader identity inside them and they have to build it from scratch. They're actually quite talented. They actually have some incredible capabilities and they have a really strong leader identity inside them and really strong capabilities inside them, but those capabilities are neglected. So I think about it as like there's like a dead, dried up plant that lives inside you that needs to be watered. And it is very important for you to identify that and understand what it is, because you want to be leveraging and leaning on the leadership that you already possess inside you. And if you are in a role that requires leadership, it means you have it inside you. You were hired into that role because of it. So it is there. And one of your jobs is to find it and to grow it and to nurture it. And I guarantee you that the more that you do this, the less stressful and the more fun and satisfying your job is going to be, and the more confident you are going to feel in work conversations, and you're going to have much more impact. Because instead of getting bogged down in having to know the answer, you're going to be fueled by the belief that you are capable and by that strong leader identity that you bring with you in any room you walk into. I'm always telling to my clients over and over and over, I always tell them the CEO of a company knows the least about what is happening inside the company. Like the higher you are in the company, the less you know about what's actually happening because you are so many steps removed from the implementation. So how is it that the person who has the least expertise and the least knowledge is in the highest leadership position? It's because leadership has nothing to do with expertise and knowledge. Leadership is about your identity and your belief that you can show up and solve problems. And when you have that belief and you walk into a room, it is so much easier to contribute. It is so much easier to feel confident and sound confident and make that powerful impression. And you are absolutely 1000% capable of doing that. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And if this is resonating with you, you are going to love the way that I support you and guide you in the Art of Speaking Up Academy. And I want to invite you to add yourself to the waitlist so that you can apply when doors open on October 7th. The work that I'm doing with my clients in the Academy is work on the inside. I'm helping you feel stronger about yourself and your capabilities. I'm helping you start to see yourself as a leader, because ultimately, when you have those things in place, they positively impact every element of your job. Your communication gets better, your contributions get better, your impact gets bigger, your reputation gets stronger, and your path to leadership or to your next promotion tends to accelerate and speed up. If you are someone who wants to have that confident voice and that effective voice, and you want to build it from the inside out, you want to have that confident voice because you feel confident and you feel like a leader inside, then I would love to invite you to join me in the next cohort. Keep your eyes peeled for enrollment to open. And like I mentioned, you can add yourself to the waitlist so you are first to find out when doors officially open. And I will pop that link in the show notes. It's jessguzikcoaching.com/academy. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.